I'm taking this salt and pouring it on the wound. Hey guys, it's Amy here, back again with another video. It's about time I made a video of this caliber, and who better to do it as than my raging princess, Yang Xiaolong. Today, we are hating on tropes in the fantasy genre. I'm considering this some tough and objective love. Fantasy is by far my most consumed genre, so I've taken a very strong look at all the tropes that I've loved, the tropes that I've hated, and the crimes against fantasy and humanity. Because some of us just love to hate things. Feel free to leave your civilized arguments on why you might like these tropes yourselves or other tropes that you don't like in the comments. Except trope number 7. You are a monster if you disagree with trope number 7. So here we go, 7 fantasy tropes that I hate. Boom. Number 1, Lord of the Rings. The gatekeepers are quaking. And I just ruined my French. I have mentioned this before, but I really hate how people define fantasy and Lord of the Rings being the example, the straight example, the primary example for fantasy, because that is the gate that is being kept in the fantasy genre, and it makes me so mad that I want to eat organs like Daenerys Targaryen. I have never watched Game of Thrones, but I know of that, and I won't be watching Game of Thrones either. Fantasy is called fantasy because it can be anything in your wildest fantasies, not because of Tolkien. Literally, defining fantasy in and of itself is always comparing how much it is like Tolkien's work. This is in both modern media and Dungeons and Dragons and basically everything fantasy related. Why? Because people saying, oh, fantasy is Lord of the Rings. It makes me less and less want to pick up a Lord of the Rings book, any of Tolkien's books, or watch any of the movies. I'm probably one of the few people in New Zealand who doesn't stand Lord of the Rings, because we are literally Hobbitville. I keep seeing all these quotes saying how good Lord of the Rings is, and I will never watch it because I feel like I've basically just seen Lord of the Rings in every other fantasy piece of media. I see tropes from it again, and again, and again. It is now the root of all evil. The gatekeepers, this is your fault because you've made it so bland and tasteless now. More points are deducted if your work is like Tolkien and every single character in it is white. Number 2, My Immortal Boyfriend. Let's continue this trend of gatekeeping with another story. Mid to late August, I noticed my TBR shrinking, and so I decided, oh, I just finished a really good urban fantasy series. I should probably get some more urban fantasy books to read. So I do a quick Google search, urban fantasy books. And literally 80% of them have a boyfriend that is either a celestial, a vampire, or a werewolf that wants to make the female main protagonist their wife in some ritualistic and low-key toxic way. I thought we decided that Twilight was way past its time. But seriously, do urban fantasy authors not have an imagination anymore? Why do stories in urban fantasy always feature one of those 3? Vampires, werewolves, immortal boyfriends. Did best-selling authors just copy everybody? Technically, this isn't hating on the genre of the urban fantasy. It's the trope. Because I see it everywhere. It's infecting bookshelves faster than COVID. Get it away from me and give me some variety. Speaking of, if you want a contemporary or urban fantasy with the likes that you have never seen before, fantasy spies, then I've got a book, ASTER'S CODA Exposure. It's available now in the description for you to buy. It's really good. Number 3, the God of all evil. I love a ruthless villain, and I love one that we can understand without being sympathetic towards. Except for one. Just a god who loves to be evil, who happens to also be the big bad evil guy. Huh? The worst excuse you can give for any villainous kind of behavior is just the fact that, oh, they're evil. Even more so if, oh, they were created to be an evil being. Because evil is subjective and it doesn't have any clear purpose or motivations. Frankly, this is just a lazy way to create a villain. It's good when we have an evil person who's like mortal or like a demigod kind of thing, but a god, that doesn't leave a lot of depth or fun to be had. This trope doesn't make me mad, it just makes me disappointed. Number 4, love story, but make it magic. If I wanted a story purely focused on romance, I would read the romance genre. So why do people pick up generic romance stories and just plop them into a magical world? I will stand by this until the day I die. Romances are way better as subplots than primary plots. The number of times I pick up a fantasy story and then I see the blurb saying that the primary goal is to get a girl or a boy or somebody in between fall in love with them, I start to wonder what was the purpose of putting it into a fantasy environment. Because to me, that doesn't feel like the fantasy becomes a key part of the storytelling. You're just using it as a backdrop. So please take this story and put it back onto planet Earth, if you'd be so kind. Number 5, wizards are nerds. I especially find this a problem in Dungeons & Dragons. People study hard and become smart in a magical world, and oh, they're wizards! Just in general, people who study hard to get where they are just considered nerdy. Why the hell are all wizards like that? Why is the concept of being a wizard defined as being a reclusive hermit who just loves to learn about the world? I was put off playing a wizard in Dungeons & Dragons for the longest time because the concept and the mechanics of the wizard is just way too deep-rooted in being a nerd. That's like gatekeeping your class. Not to mention the robes and the hats that they wear. Ugly as hell. I want wizards to be defined by more than their studious nature and their wisdom. They deserve better than this. They have fucking magic. Number 6, dragon monotheistics. I like dragons. I play Dungeons & Dragons, so of course I do. But you guys are more obsessed with dragons than I am with my dice collection. Dragons are found in so many different books that they should be considered pests. There are way more cooler fantasy creatures, you know, like the succubus, the chimera. Even a flump is cooler than a dragon sometimes. Not to mention, you guys keep using dragons in the same way. Either they're horde keepers and they're evil and they should be slain, or they are the gods of the multiverse. They are overrated, but I do have a soft spot for them if they are written well and uniquely. You guys haven't found that. Basically, the reason that I don't like you guys worshipping dragons is that you just pick them up from one story and plot them in your own in more or less the same way. Have you guys considered, like, some different world building or tropes surrounding dragons maybe? Number 7, historical accuracies. You're writing a fantasy novel, so do I need to make myself clearer? This world is fictional. It is based off of things. It's not the actual time period that you set it in. You don't need to make everybody white! If you wanted to have an all-straight cast with Tudor gowns and castles, may I suggest a different genre for you to write in, called historical fiction. And may I also suggest you do your research on the subject and find out how inaccurate your conceptions of your historical accuracy are. You fucking bigot. Because you are so set in your ways in making stuff historically accurate that you don't even bother to consider the accuracies of the real world. You cannot have a single queer character, but you can have magic. Fucking privileged fuck. Elves and dwarves do not equate diversity in the same way that you think it does. If your story is not racist or homophobic, then include these people in your story, damn it. And before I end up breaking something, we should probably finish off the video there. I hope you guys are more civilized than I am in the comments in regards to these tropes. And if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you are new around here. You can ring that bell to find out when I post more videos on writing, on bookish things, and on digital content creation for authors. As mentioned before, my own urban contemporary fantasy novel, ASTER'S CODA Exposure, is available in the description. Follow Abby Tacker as she discovers her family's otherworldly blood feud after the death of her own mother. And you can also check down below to find my Instagram, my Twitter, my TikTok, and my website. Stay creative, everybody, and I will be seeing you in the next video.